What's going on? A to Z Sports live on a Monday after a huge weekend. The NFL draft is now complete. The Titans have 6 draft picks total in the 2020 NFL draft, and we are here to discuss that NFL draft, our favorite picks, our least favorite pick of the Titans draft class, and the best and worst segment, and as well as grading the overall draft. I have one similarity that I saw in all of the Titans draft picks. So I've got one, and then as I was waiting for our show to begin today, I thought of a second. So 2 similarities for all of the Titans draft picks. We are live today on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and IG Live. Julian Cutts asked about Jadeveon Clowney. We will discuss Jadeveon Clowney, maybe touch on him some today, but throughout the week we will update the Jadeveon Clowney news, whatever the news may be with that. So welcome in, everybody. Zach, we're going to have a huge show today because it's Monday after the NFL draft, and our end-of-show topic is about grocery store shopping. Have you changed your grocery store shopping habits? Do you wear a mask? Do you wear gloves? That's what we're going to discuss here in the show topic. But Zach, let's lead it off with Titans draft. Let's get it going.
OG complimenting the beard coming in to trend with the mustache. Thank you, OG, on Instagram. Yeah, we're going to have a great show today on Monday. We welcome everybody in on this Monday morning. We're going to get your week started off right, talking about and recapping the draft, but also as you mentioned, a lot of people are asking, the best part about this is the Titans still have Clowney watch, right? So we get to extend our conversation a little bit longer, and we'll track that throughout the days and maybe weeks, see how long it goes. But before we get started on this Monday morning, we do want to ask you guys to share the broadcast for us. Share the show. Bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Twitter/Periscope, we would appreciate a retweet. And how that works is those 3 little dots, tap that bad boy, and retweet the broadcast. We need to pop up in your Twitter followers timeline. Also, Facebook. What's going on, Facebookers? More people will pile in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. And as you guys do, please share the show on Facebook. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends' newsfeed. We are on, as Austin said, on YouTube. So what's going on, YouTubers? Twitchers? I mean, how would you describe the Twitch community?
I don't know. We're going to have to ask Kenny Vaccaro because it's a gaming thing, and I think Kenny Vaccaro is the one guy that I know of who uses Twitch on a regular basis.
So what's up to everybody on Twitch? Kenny, if you're joining us, we welcome you guys, you as well, and also on Instagram, what's going on? We go live every single weekday morning at 8 a.m., and we do this every single 5 days a week. I mean, and we've been doing this for years. So for the new platforms, join us, like us on other social media platforms. We got tons of content. We started this business about 3 years ago, and we've grown it. If you're a Titans fan, if you're an SEC fan, Preds fan, we got you covered right here in Nashville.
All right, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by TennesseeTickets.com. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports, and you like our Facebook page at A to Z Sports Nashville. We go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. Got to thank our sponsors because they make everything happen for our show, for our business, and they help you guys out. TennesseeTickets.com. May is almost here, and May 9th is when the NFL announces its regular season schedule, and that is when you will be able to go get your tickets for Titan single games at TennesseeTickets.com. Save you a bunch of money there. TennesseeTickets.com. Renters Warehouse, they're the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for, because there are many alternatives to saving money, and to help use Renters Warehouse to help you save money. RentersWarehouse.com. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, where one 15-minute workout of full-body electronic muscle stimulation simulates 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. When they open back up, everybody's going to need to jumpstart their fitness after this quarantine time. Mandu.com. Your first workout is absolutely free. The Tucker Agency, Nashville's independent insurance agency, giving you relief by saving you an average of 20% on your personal insurance, an average of 20% on your personal insurance. TuckerTN.com. And Calvin and Subtle Hardwood and Finishings, taking CDC precautions to service Middle Tennessee's hardwood floor needs. For an appointment, 615-448-6414. CalvinandSubtle.com is where to go. Zach, I think overall, NFL had a successful draft weekend. I thought it was impressive the way Trey Wingo talked for like 48 hours straight He made some mistakes. I saw one time he said Brad Hopkins played for the Oilers and Texans, not the Oilers and Titans. But overall, I thought the NFL draft went very smooth, and the Titans got 6 draft picks out of it. The full class: Isaiah Wilson, who we talked about a lot on Friday. The second round, the Titans got corner Christian Fulton from LSU. The third round, running back from App State, Darrington Evans. In the 5th round on Saturday, Laurel Murchison, D lineman from NC State. In the 7th round, Cole McDonald, quarterback from Hawaii. And they traded the Jarrell Casey trade pick for a 2021 6th round pick with the Chiefs, and then ended the draft with Chris Jackson, DB out of Marshall. Zach, your overall thoughts about what the Titans and John Robinson were able to put together?
Well, that was a good little ode to Jarrell Casey, because we all felt like he was worth more than a 7th round pick. Maybe that makes Tatted Monster a little bit happier out there in Denver now. But you know, they wrapped up their draft. I think overall, we'll get to our grades here in a second, but we kind of touched on this when we were reacting live on Friday. They obviously followed up with a few more pieces to add depth to their team. That's what late round picks usually do. But I thought this draft, look, it wasn't a sexy draft, right? I mean, you got an offensive tackle, maybe possibly a backup offensive tackle in the 1st round. You got a cornerback, then you got a backup running back from App State, right? You didn't get the name that we're all used to or watching in maybe a running back heavy draft at the top half. And then you go get depth guys, whether you get a defensive lineman and a quarterback in the later rounds. I thought it was a good, solid football draft, right?
Yeah.
This is a football guy's draft. You understand the team needs. And look, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, they're football guys. They knew what their team needed to improve on based on what they did last year. And here's, I think, the overall thing. And Titans fans, I think you would agree with me. Mike Vrabel and John Robinson, they know that this team, to win a Super Bowl, you can't be a wild card team. You gotta win your division. You have to get home field advantage. You have to possibly get a bye in the playoffs. That's the easiest road. And so now that they've got their core group, they'll have Tannehill, if healthy, for the full slate of games. Derrick Henry is there for this year because of the franchise tag. And they can build on a lot of momentum that Jonnu Smith, A.J. Brown, and some of that defense like Jeffrey Simmons brought to them. Jayon Brown playing at a better level. Mm-hmm. So I think these are pieces that just add to what they're really trying to find out is the Ryan Tannehill and the defense. If you can keep that together for a full season, maybe you can win the division. Maybe you can make some noise in the AFC. And really, when it comes down to it, you got to compete with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And Phillip Rivers now. I'll sprinkle you in because I think the Colts had a really good draft. And I know Titans fans don't want to hear that, but the Colts did.
And based on odds that are already out for next year, Trevor Lawrence is going to the Jags in a year. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be a really good quarterback division depending on the future. Jacob Eason also picked by the Colts. We'll talk about the teams around the division and what they were able to do later this week. But there were 2 similarities, really one main one, and then I thought of a second one before our show started this morning that I took away when I saw the entire draft class, 6 guys from John Robinson that I ran through earlier. The first similarity that was easy to jump off the page to me was all of these guys are versatile, and front multiplicity and being versatile are things that John Robinson and Mike Vrabel both talk about ad nauseum all the time. How versatile can you be? What all can you do? And let's just run down the list. I mean, Isaiah Wilson at tackle, the guy played quarterback in the Wildcat goal line situation in college. He played a lot of different positions. I mean, he played right tackle, but I think he's got the ability to play jumbo tight end if he's not the immediate starter. Isaiah Wilson's the least versatile of this group because of the position that he plays. You look at Christian Fulton. The first thing that Christian Fulton told John Robinson was that I can play nickel and I can play outside. He's versatile. You look at Darrington Evans. Darrington Evans was recruited, and he talked about this on his conference call. He was recruited as an athlete and was actually the worst rated recruit in his Appalachian State recruiting class. They're not getting a lot of big name recruits, and Darrington Evans was the worst of that. And they got him on the field because he could catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's a 3-down back. Darrington Evans can do everything, so he is versatile. Laurel Murchison, he played fullback in high school and has played every position on the D-line at NC State. Cole McDonald, quarterback out of Hawaii. Guy ran a 4.58 40. So he's got speed. He's got athleticism. He was asked on the conference call for him Saturday afternoon that if the Titans want to use him as a gadget player, he's open for it. So you've got that versatility. And then finally, Chris Jackson out of Marshall. It was funny because Marshall played him at cornerback, but when the Titans drafted him, it was announced as a safety. So he was a corner in college, but safety announced in the drafts. So that's just versatility at its finest right there. So all of these guys have a ton of versatility.
Yeah, well, and that's what Mike Vrabel seeks out, is because you got to be able to play special teams. When you're a first draft pick, they expect, look, besides Isaiah Wilson, he's not going to be he could be on field goal block. I mean, so can't sit there and say he won't play special teams.
Right.
You have to have that. And I think I think this is the reason, Austin, you bring all these points up, and I agree with you, is the quarterback position and the offense in the NFL is ever changing, and the game is ever changing. And you've got to be able to adapt with the players that you've drafted. We saw this a few years back. You remember when the Titans went from a 4-3 to a 3-4? A lot of those guys had to play positions and different techniques that they had never done, right? Yeah. You had to adapt. They drafted Derek Morgan is a good example of that, right? He was a traditional outside DN. He transformed into an outside linebacker, did that pretty well. You have to have that. I think that's why Rashaan Evans was drafted a couple of years ago, because of the versatility that you speak of. So I agree with your points. I think that is a similarity all across the board. And, a lot of draft picks, you get in there and you say, all right, this is going to be a weird year because of the coronavirus, but what can you do? Right? Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. If you can help the football team in any capacity, get in there. And I think Mike Vrabel and the entire staff has shown that's kind of their mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned that I thought of another similarity between all of these draft picks before the show began this morning. And the second one, because I was on, and I know, Zach, you were a part of these as well, I was on every conference call with the player after the draft pick, except for Christian Fulton, because we were doing our live reaction show during the third round when Christian Fulton talked to the Titans media. We were still on the air live talking to you guys, but I was on all the others. So I was on 5 of them. And another similarity of those 5 is that I liked the pick even better after hearing these guys talk. All of them. And I have to go back and listen to the Christian Fulton one because I didn't get a chance to be on that one. But Isaiah Wilson was impressive in how he talked. And the guy, he was asked, I saw in a different interview done on social media pre-draft, he was asked what would he do if he wasn't playing football. His answer was to be a psychologist because I like learning about why people do things the way that they do them and the reason why behind them. I'm like, that's a really intelligent answer for a 6'7", 350-pound guy who's a good athlete, strong, and talked about breaking other people's wills. And then he wants to be a psychologist too. And Darrington Evans, I think, was the guy who impressed me most on the call because of how he talked and sounded so intelligent when he was just describing the style of playing running back. When he was saying about how he presses the hole, he uses patience, and then he has burst, and he's hard to tackle in the open field. All these different things, everything. I mean, Laurel Murchison talked about how he's down to do whatever the team wants, and how can you be a good leader if you don't have a high motor? And all of these guys, Cole McDonald sounded like a quarterback, so you got that one. And then Chris Jackson had so much enthusiasm as how he was talking. So I liked all of the picks that I heard more after I heard them talk. I think that is kind of typical with John Robinson draft picks too.
Well, you got to have it from the shoulders up. You can't have dummies. Dummies usually get in trouble off the field, and dummies usually can't remember a playbook, go to the wrong place at the wrong time, and it ends up for points on the other side, and they ended up not having a job. So, yes, that Peyton Manning, I've always referenced Peyton Manning made and forced the league to start drafting smarter players because he single-handedly outsmarted other guys, right, just by knowing a little bit more. And that has gone a long way, now be it 2020 I do agree with you. I did hear that and sense that in their voice and in the conversations in the post-draft press conferences.
All right, A to Z Sports, let's get you guys more involved this morning. We're going to ask you, how do you grade the Titans 2020 draft class? So we've got a Mel Kiper grade. We've got NFL.com, Pro Football Focus grades to kind of compare to. What is your letter grade on the Titans 2020 NFL draft class? But first, Zach, tell the people about the Tucker Agency and how they can help them save some money during these times.
Yeah, 20% possibly. That's on average how much the customers at the Tucker Agency save. And one of the reasons why we teamed up with Will Tucker is the owner of the Tucker Agency. He's right here in Middle Tennessee. He believes locally to give back to the community. And the biggest part is a lot of people have lost their jobs and lost income. You may have been one of those people. Look, I guarantee every business is hurting, right? They're not thriving compared. Maybe if you're in sanitation, or if you make masks or gloves, that may be the only business. Everybody else is falling on probably a little bit tougher times. Restructure your insurance. That's another way and a philosophy to get a little extra money each month. And you can save 20% with the Tucker Agency. It's very, very easy. You've got home insurance. You've got auto insurance. You may have insurance on your valuables or rental properties. Well, let them take a look at that, because maybe an extra $200 or $300 go back into your pocket. That's food on the table for your family. That's help to pay your mortgage. Insurance, it is essential for everybody, but maybe restructuring can help you in the long run. That's TuckerTN.com. TuckerTN.com. Will Tucker will take care of you. I guarantee their team, they care about right here in Middle Tennessee. They care about you. 330-5057. That's 615-330-5059. 59. TuckerTN.com.
A to Z Sports. Don't forget our podcast feed, A to Z Sports, wherever you get your podcast. A brand new draft edition of the Tighten Up podcast came out yesterday. Check that out. I'm halfway through it so far. Pretty damn good. Demetrius says, should I be clowned for saying that Darrington Evans could be Chris Johnson 2.0? Yes, don't do that right now. let's let the guy travel to Nashville first before you just say Chris Johnson 2.0. Our question right now, about to get to your answers, is what grade do you give the Titans 2020 draft class? Jadeveon Clowney has not done anything yet, so I just want to say that before I get into these grades, because there was that random Twitter account that said that he agreed with terms with the Titans pending a physical, and I don't know what you can take from that, but we saw it. But we're going to grade this draft class. Rob says B+, Michael Snyder with a B, Louis with an A, Steph Dobbs with a B, Titans 8-2 with a B+, Gunner with a B. So far, B's is the range we're in. Scott Weaver with a B-, Jamal with a B+, Demetrius B-, Christopher B+. Let's see. I want to get some more some different answers, because James says A-, Marquise says B+. But right now it looks like B- is kind of the consensus with most picks.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart, it kind of goes to everybody watching. And we've done this show long enough. These guys, the Titans fans, are no dummies. They're actually pretty, compared to other fans that I feel like are just oblivious to a lot of things. I do think that they've got a good hold on what this draft was, and just Titans topics in general. Tress kind of gets over the hill every once in a while.
Over the hill. Just old? You mean a little overexcited?
But overall, I do think I agree with that. I think a B. I think that's the grade for me. I think this is a solid B draft. It didn't wow me like other drafts. I thought the Dolphins did a very good job. I think the Bucs did a very good job. I think the Colts and the Chargers also did a very good job. So those are higher grades to me than the Titans, but they didn't have head-scratching moves like the Green Bay Packers. We're not walking away from this. They got guys that we felt they should get. Cornerback, offensive line to help Tannehill and Derrick Henry, right? That makes a lot of sense. I felt, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, they needed to draft a quarterback because they didn't have a backup one. They got interior defensive line because they traded away Jarrell Casey. They're still going after Clowney, per se. So overall, I thought this was a solid B draft. The reason why it's a B and it's not an A is you draft Isaiah Wilson. I think this is John Robinson, and we heard from John Robinson after every pick, after every round. And this is kind of what I felt. I felt like John Robinson wanted to do more and was not able to based on the way the draft fell to him. And he kind of referenced that a couple of times. And then I would take that a step further, Austin. After, I guess it was Friday night. This was like midnight, right? So after the second or the third round, right? We were sitting there in a Zoom conference with J-Rob and Vrabel. And John Robinson said this, and it was really telling to me. He said, we took a lot of body shots, right?
Yeah.
And that told me in the second and third rounds, because they picked 29th towards the end of the round, and the third round was a little bit different, but because they picked towards the latter half of their rounds, they had to accrue those body blows of maybe they wanted Keyshawn Vaughn, but they were off the board, right?
Maybe they were going to go wide receiver, because a lot of wide receivers went in that middle part of the third round. And hell, the Raiders drafted all of them. The Raiders took Lynn Bowden Jr. and Brian Edwards from Kentucky and South Carolina with back-to-back picks. So, and there were a lot of running backs that went off the board there. And I like Darrington Evans. We'll talk about the best and the worst with which draft picks you like the most and the least later on. But I think he was right. I mean, he talked about wanting to or trying to trade out of 29 and wasn't able to do it because it all fizzled out. Maybe because the Packers traded up to get Jordan Love ahead of where the Titans were, and the Titans
absolutely. A lot of people have been commenting on that.
Yeah,
I think that was the singular thing that changed this draft. Now, I think John Robinson knew that, right? It always happens. The top quarterbacks go because they're wanted, because the teams that are no good are usually at the top of the draft that need quarterbacks. But really where the draft gets interesting and it can really infiltrate a full franchise is if you have that 29th, 27th, 28th, 26th pick, somebody's going to trade up to go get a guy because they're afraid somebody else is going to trade. And 29, let's be honest, it's a really good year for the previous year, right? It's not great because you can get into the Super Bowl, but it's a terrible draft pick.
Yeah,
it's a really tough spot to be because quarterbacks, they're just valued more than ever. So I do believe that Jordan Love screwed John Robinson's trading power, and that was a trickle-down effect for the rest of the draft. So they salvaged it. I think I still grade them a B, but I agree with you, Austin. That made a difference.
Well, okay, so F-Word Pod says Darrington Evans was most definitely their pre-draft target for running back because they had a lot of meetings with him, and that's true. And so maybe they wanted to draft Evans, but maybe 93 was the only option they had to take him. Maybe they wanted to draft Evans later on, but they could not move back or shuffle around in the draft because they traded once. It was the 7th round, and they didn't trade for this draft. They traded for next year's draft, which I think next year's draft is going to be a lot more full of more picks and more ability to do different things because the Titans should have all of their picks for every round. They should get a compensatory pick in the 3rd round. They've got a bonus 6th round from the Chiefs that we talked about. So I think the Titans have the ability next year to have a bigger draft. So I haven't mentioned my grade yet. So I feel like you said B, right, Zach?
Yes.
I'm going with a B minus, slightly below you. I had a C plus grade on Isaiah Wilson. I think part of why that grade was so low is because by saying we tried to trade back but couldn't, it told me that they did not think Isaiah Wilson's best value was 29th overall. It doesn't mean that it was a bad pick, but it was a reach to an extent. If they could have traded back 8 to 10 spots, maybe Isaiah Wilson gets his full value and you get an extra pick in the 4th round.
Or maybe you don't get Isaiah Wilson though.
Maybe not. But
I think that's what it tells me.
No, but he didn't say John Robinson, that is, did not say we had a trade offer, but we thought it would be best to take Wilson now and for the risk of losing him. He didn't say that. He said we had some calls out there, but it fizzled out. And so that makes me think that, okay, it fizzled out. We're going to stick and pick because that's the only option we have. Let's take the guy we actually love. And at 29 was a reach for Isaiah Wilson because of his project type of a prospect. He's a very high ceiling prospect, but he's got some work to do. But the Titans are in a position to be okay with that because of Dennis Kelly.
Justification because of Dennis Kelly, as you said.
Right.
That's it's justified. That's why you have to do it.
So that's where I had C+ for Isaiah Wilson because of lack of value. Now they helped out that value and canceled that out by having Christian Fulton fall to them at 61. Because I said on our show on Friday that if they drafted Christian Fulton 29 and Isaiah Wilson 61, then it would be A's across the board for everybody. So that kind of cancels each other out.
You weren't going to draft, I guess,
I'm just
fair point. You weren't going to draft Isaiah Wilson in the second round where they picked, right? He wouldn't have been there.
Maybe
but
not.
The surprise was that Fulton was there.
Right, correct. So that canceled each other out. The one other thing that has me lower than you is the fact that they came out of that draft without a wide receiver. And it's just a draftable wide receiver, because right now, going into the draft, corner was the most thin position for the Titans. You can make an argument that the wide receiver position is pretty thin. It's very top heavy, but it's thin because Corey Davis and A.J. Brown are really your only big-bodied receivers with experience. Because then you've got a bunch of slot guys behind him. You've got Adam Humphries, who's legit. I'm not discrediting Adam Humphries, but after those three, they're small guys. It's Khalif Raymond, Cameron Batson. Like, if an injury happens to one of your top two guys, and Corey Davis has been injured a lot, I think you're in deep crap. I mean, I almost said something else, but like you're in some tough stuff, because who's filling in on the outside? And there's this draft was talked about as the receiver draft, that you can get a ton of value at the receiver position anywhere in the draft, and they just didn't do it. So I think that hurts. And it's not about starting, because I think next year
I have an argument for
okay, well, that's fine. Let me finish. Next year, the Titans need to draft a receiver high, first or second round, because Corey Davis is probably not going to be on the team. But this year, what's going to happen if A.J. Brown or Corey Davis gets hurt, which is likely, because especially with Corey Davis and A.J. Brown missed all of his rookie training camp almost. If those guys go down, then you don't have a big body guy that was Tajay Sharp last year. And so who is going to fill in? That is why I knock it down to a B- for my overall grade.
All right, so here is my argument, and I understand why you think that, but let's look at it the other way. Let's look at it the way John Robinson, I believe, viewed it. So all the things that you said were true, except you forgot to bring up one very important point. This is a wide receiver deep draft.
Yeah.
By the time they picked in the second round, 14 wide receivers is taken off the board.
I'm not talking about the second round.
Well, but that's where the value was. This is a deep wide receiver draft, but after you get past 14 wideouts, come on, man, you're dealing with what you're dealing with. So to the point of what I think John Robinson felt, Christian Fulton fell to him in the second round. He absolutely had to take him. He did it, right?
Yeah.
Nope. He didn't take a wide receiver later because of this. Next year's draft, there's going to be plenty of wide receivers. And you know what? You're going to probably get the pick of the litter because 14 teams have already taken at least a first or a second round wide receiver. It's a great philosophy. That actually improved my grade instead of downgraded it, because he's playing. And as you said, you're going to have to replace Corey Davis. You're not picking up his 5-year option. That wouldn't be smart. So you're going to pick next year with likely a higher draft pick, a first or a second round at wide receiver. You're going to get better value because wide receivers are going to be there, right? Not
yeah,
14,
but
now your competition next draft is much less. And you get to pick your wideout. I love it.
Zach, everybody needs wideouts like everybody needs cornerbacks. Like, you have to have a bunch of them. Like the Titans drafted Christian Fulton in the second round this year. I'm going to go ahead and give you a prediction. The Titans will need another cornerback high in next year's draft too. That's just a prediction here on the show today, that the Titans will have to go corner and wide receiver high again next year. Just because, and I'm not talking about if they drafted a guy in the 5th round at wide receiver, they're still going to need a wide receiver next year too. Like, that's not the point that I'm making. Is they needed a bigger bodied wide receiver this year for depth purposes, because Corey Davis has shown his inability to stay healthy. He played through a lot of injuries last year because he didn't have a choice. And F-Words Pods brought up Donovan Peoples-Jones, who was sitting there in the 5th. Courtney Davis from A&M was available in the 7th. There's a bunch of wide receivers available that were the big body guys that had speed, that could have worked, that could have filled in case of an injury as a 4th or 5th guy, but can step up and play on the outside if you need him. and they didn't do that. And so now
That
you're going to have
wasn't
to
a
rely.
glaring hole on their roster, Austin.
Yes, it was. I do think
it was not. It was not a glaring hole. They actually addressed the glaring holes on the roster with the picks that they made. We're going to sit here and argue about the quarterback position, which they should have taken because it was a hole on their roster. Okay, the wide receiver, and look, you talk about big body wide receiver, maybe, and I don't know how they feel, but Khalif Raymond improved last year from start to finish. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be outstanding, but he made some plays down the stretch that maybe gave them the confidence to not have to pick a wide out because of the philosophy I brought up and the fact that they have guys that maybe you and I don't truly believe in, but they do. And that's happened in,
right. And Scott says Khalif Raymond says, Austin, hold my beer. Look, I like Khalif Raymond. He's a speed guy and he's small. Like I'm talking about what happens if Corey Davis or AJ Brown.
But what if Adam Humphries goes down? Khalif Raymond can
That's not what I'm perfect. They've got depth in the slot. Like I'm not worried about that at all. I'm worried about a big body guy because they don't have another big body guy besides Davis and AJ. That's it.
That's fine, but maybe that changes the dynamic of your offense.
They get smaller as they go. It goes like it's AJ, Corey are both big. Then it's Adam, and then Khalif Raymond's smaller than Adam Humphries, and then Cam Batson's smaller than Khalif Raymond. Like they're step wide receivers.
But if we want to plug Khalif Raymond into this conversation, Austin, maybe it changes their team in not saying a better way because Khalif Raymond is not as good of a player as Corey Davis or AJ Brown. But let's, for example, say Corey Davis goes down with an injury next year. Now all of a sudden you have AJ Brown, big wide receiver, Jonnu Smith, big tight end. I think you have to value that because they also have backup tight ends that block in Ferkser and Michael Pruitt. You have a possession wide receiver and a guy who can run great option routes in Adam Humphries. And now you've got a burner in Khalif Raymond that can at least stretch the field. Not saying that he can catch every pass, but he at least makes people pay attention. That's a pretty good option, right? That's spread out very nicely. So I look at this in a positive sense. I don't look at this in a negative.
Again, I still give the overall class a B- because I like.
I don't think you could justify your minus.
I can because I have a lower grade than you do on Isaiah Wilson, so that knocks it down a little bit. And I also think they should have drafted a wide receiver at some point on Saturday. I'm not talking about because Ethan Ramsey says Austin wants to spend her first or second pick on a wide receiver 4. I'm not talking about drafting a wide receiver in the first or second round or even the third round, really. The third round's the earliest I said they should have taken a wide receiver. I like Darrington Evans. We'll talk about that here in a second more. They should have drafted
a hole they had to fill.
I'm not. You didn't hear what I said. I just said Darrington Evans.
So you're going to take a wide receiver, what round?
Saturday. I just said it. Saturday, Zach.
What round, though?
5 or 7, or use one of your 7s to go get a guy in the 6th. Like I on Saturday. They didn't have a 4th round pick, right? So that makes things difficult.
Like a 7th round wide receiver. Like they had to fill their quarterback position. And they had to get an extra cornerback / secondary guy because they need
again. We're going to talk. I'm holding on some of my comments because of our next topic that we're going to get to. But next year, you best believe the Titans are drafting a wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd round because Corey Davis probably not going to be here next year. A to Z Sports here live on a Monday discussing.
I do think this is funny. I'm going to interrupt you real quick because B-Luke Shaw on Instagram and. We're just we started Instagram Live last week. We've been doing this for years in the morning, every weekday morning, talking Titans, talking sports. Follow us on our other social media pages, and you'll get great content. But B. Luke Shaw says, guys, just agree to disagree. This is the first time B. Luke Shaw has ever tuned
You don't get the show.
We argue all the time. This is kind of the setup. Now, it's organic. These are organic arguments.
These are real.
These are not phony like First Take or Undisputed. Those are trash shows. So this is how the show works, but we welcome all of our new viewers on our other platforms to join us.
All right, A to Z Sports. Let's get to our best and worst. We've been doing this every day in April. What was the best draft pick the Titans made? What was the worst draft pick the Titans made, in your opinion? But first, Zach, Calvin, and Subtle for your hardwood flooring needs.
Yes, if you need brand new hardwood floors, Calvin and Subtle is the place to go here in Middle Tennessee. They're one call away, and how it works is they set up a salesperson to come to your house within a day or two. They will take all the CDC precautions. They'll wear gloves. They'll wear masks. They will make sure that you and them are safe. They'll assess your hardwood flooring situation. They'll bring samples, or you can go in their showroom. You decide on a hardwood floor. 2 weeks later, installation, and boom, you have brand new hardwood flooring. It is that simple, and they have all different kind of price ranges from $30 per square foot to all the way to $1.99 per square foot. That's value, still really good. And then you've got the luxury side. So they have all of the spectrums to get your perfect brand new hardwood flooring. That's calvinandsettle.com. That's calvinandsettle.com, or give them a call at 615-448-6414. That's 615-448-6414.
A to Z Sports. We got the quintuple stream going this morning: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and IG Live. A to Z Sports. Also, don't forget, guys, follow our Instagram. Follow our Instagram, but follow our podcast feed. Subscribe, rate, review there. A to Z Sports, wherever you get your podcast. Brand new Tighten Up podcast episode came out yesterday, reacting to the draft. Austin Huff, Jack Gentry, they do a great job talking Titans. You guys will like them a lot. So now the question is, what was the best draft pick the Titans made? What was the worst draft pick the Titans made? Let's read a couple comments before we dive into ours. I saw one that caught my eye from F Word Pods. He didn't really answer the first half of it, but he said best. He said best was Big Merch, Laurel Murchison from NC State. That was one of the draft picks where I'm like, God, like that was so boring of a draft pick, because the Titans had to. Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is from the fan perspective of viewers of the draft and the want for sex appeal. The Titans went from 93 overall. They wait 81 picks to get to 174. And then they have 50 picks until they pick again in the 7th round. And so you're thinking, okay, in the 5th round, the Titans have to get an edge rusher. There were some names on the board there with Bradley and I. Or wide receiver. There was a bunch of names there. And they go with Laurel Murchison, who's got a funny last name, from NC State, a D lineman. And you're like, oh, that's kind of anticlimactic. And then he's one of the guys where after I heard the conference call with him, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be good. This guy's exactly what John Robinson wants in a D lineman. He can play.
Is that your best pick?
No, I'm reacting to F Word Pod's pick that he said it's Laurel Murchison because of what he can do on the D line. He can play all the different positions, and he's a really good pass rusher, 7 sacks in 2019.
What's your best pick?
My best pick is Darrington Evans. I know Christian Fulton is going to be everybody's choice by fans, or most people's choice. Darrington Evans, I think I really like this guy. I really like him. He crushed his conference call, and the more and more I saw the highlights of what Darrington Evans can do, is he's exactly what they need. He is exactly what they need behind Derrick Henry. And I don't know what Derrick Henry's long-term future is going to be, but Darrington Evans is going to have an impact. He's fast, 4'140. He's elusive. He's strong. He's got enough size, and he's smart. He knows how to play the position, and he can play a bunch of different positions and a bunch of different roles for the Titans. He's got the App State record for kickoff returns for touchdowns, so he can do that. He lined up in the slot. He played wide receiver just to get on the field early in his App State career, and I think Darrington Evans is my favorite of the draft picks in this.
Yeah, I think I look at him, and the biggest thing, he was asked this on the conference call too, the number one thing that he has to learn early, because they're going to need him, he's going to be a third down back. He's got to learn how to pass block.
Sure.
And if he can do that, and that was one thing, look, a lot of people don't like Dion Lewis. They overpaid him. He didn't work out the way that they wanted him to. Derrick Henry emerged. Dion Lewis went the other way. But Dion Lewis could pass block. He could. And he could chip and then get on the outside and at least get open as a check down for his quarterback. He's going to have to do that and do that quick. I like that pick too. It wasn't my favorite one. I'm going to go with the obvious one because I'm going to answer the question correctly, and I think a lot of people have. It's Christian Fulton. That should be the most exciting pick because of the value you got where you drafted Christian Fulton. Another reason is because I picked him to be picked. Like that does help, right? Because I predicted that the Titans would take him, and my Miss Cleo eyes, it worked, right? But that's the exciting thing because I do think he can make an impact right away. And It will help Adoree Jackson. It will help Malcolm Butler. It will help just the secondary in general. And I think another refreshing thing is he's going to go into a secondary that is really tight, leadership based with Vaccaro, Byard, Butler, and Adoree Jackson. And I think, look, it's a blow that Logan Ryan in leadership and in play is not going to be on the team. As we know right now, he's still a free agent. I think that right there, I think that can help him just jumpstart his career, and he could be very, very good right out of the gate. So that's my number one most exciting draft pick.
Yeah, Brian Badillo on Facebook says Fulton shutdown corner, Evans explosive, Merch is a wrecking ball. So I want to go back because Scott says true, Zach. Right there on Evans. Brent says the Fulton pick is better than the Evans pick. He played at Appalachian State, which isn't very good competition. If you don't understand what Appalachian State, Brent had back-to-back not smart comments. I don't know if Brent is anti-Appy State. Appalachian State has been making names and knocking off bigger opponents for decades now in college football, and App State's a very solid program. So Brent says that, and then Brent says Derrick Henry is a 3-down back. Evans doesn't see the field much. If Derrick Henry was a 3-down back, the Titans would not have played Deion Lewis on 3rd down 80% of the time. So that is just not true there, Brent. And I want to go to –
He probably already had a long-term contract too.
Right. So I want to go, Zach, you brought up Darrington Evans having to learn how to pass protect, which is absolutely true. And that made me think of something he said on the conference call. The Darrington Evans was asked about pass protections, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, that he took time to learn defensive schemes, where pressure is coming from, and took pride in protecting his quarterback and having to know what all positions have to do on every snap. So that's Darrington Evans is a sharp kid. He's a try-hard, which is good, and he comes from a small school where he had to wait his time for a couple of years behind some really good running backs at App State before him. And he also, guys, 3 years as the primary running back at App State, 0 fumbles. 0. Like, I'm not even talking about a fumble that they just didn't lose. Like 0 times he fumbled. 0. And that's
something to take pride with.
Yeah, and he does. And he talked about he takes pride in that. And if you can't take care of the ball, you can't get on the field. So that's what he talked about that too. So I like Darrington Evans was my favorite by far, really.
Riggs was asking on Instagram what was Christian Fulton's 40 time. It was a 4.46. He's fast.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why I thought the Titans were going to draft him. And I think here's one of the reasons, as John Robinson pointed out. He can make open field tackles. And in this league, if you can tackle wide receivers or running backs in open space, there's so much value to that. And you know what? I'll say this. I think Christian Fulton, before the draft, thought he was going to be a first-round pick, right?
Sure, yeah.
He's going to have a chip on his shoulder because he's a second-round pick, right? I'd be a little ticked off if I dropped to the bottom of the second round or towards the end of the second round because everybody passed up on me. Use that as motivation. That's another reason why I do believe it was the best pick in my opinion.
A couple comments. John on Facebook talking about Evans. He says, if you're really good, you don't have to wait to see the field, because I mentioned he had to wait his turn. That's
Isaiah Wilson.
I'm sorry, Darrington Evans. Did I say Isaiah Wilson?
No, I'm giving you another example of a guy who is drafted in the first round, but may have to wait to see the field. I think.
He was talking about Darrington Evans because I said he had to wait his turn at App State before being the primary back the last few years. When he was recruited, he was an athlete, and the App State's like all-time leading rusher was finishing out his career. So, I mean, Derrick Henry had to wait his turn at Alabama. So John doesn't think Derrick Henry's very good. Maybe just like me. When just shoot myself just for no reason there. Real quick, another comment.
That's called sitting on the sword.
Yeah, right. Scott says, any of the draft picks considered high motor guys like Vanden Bosch? That would be Laurel Murchison, who's talked about his high motor. And he was named this was an interesting thing about Murchison. He's a JUCO player. He was a late bloomer, but went the JUCO route. And then he was a captain on NC State's team as a JUCO guy. And that doesn't happen a lot if you know much about JUCO and college football like that. But Murchison talked about being a leader, and his leadership style is having that high motor, because if you don't have a high motor, and you're not out there, how can you be a good leader if you're letting other people down because you're not playing as hard as you possibly can? So to answer Scott's questions, Laurel Murchison is right there as one of those high motor guys.
All right, Austin, let's get to the conversation that I've been wanting to have for some time now, and that is because you took it to the bank and look, you
well, do you want to go ahead?
This.
Okay.
No. Look, you went strong on this for weeks, saying that the Titans did not need to draft a quarterback. That didn't make any sense to you, even though they didn't have a backup quarterback on the damn roster besides the practice guy, Logan Woodside. But they decided to heed, I would say, maybe my advice and go quarterback with Cole McDonald in the 7th round. I liked the pick. Like, let's take the quarterback position away from it. I thought it was the right move to draft a quarterback because you needed a guy. But Cole McDonald out of Hawaii. So maybe that the ties out west, as they say. Maybe it was a marketing decision. I would actually applaud that. If I don't think John Robinson drafts on marketing, but he's going to keep maybe some of the Hawaiian Titan fan base and carry over that liked Marcus Mariota, who's no longer on the team. And now they'll transfer their two-tone blue fanship to Cole McDonald. So, Austin, what did you feel and what did you sense about the Titans drafting Cole McDonald with the 224th selection of the 2020 NFL draft?
Well, I will say Cole McDonald from SoCal is as SoCal as it gets after he my-manned Jim Wyatt on the conference call, which I thought was hilarious. I will tell you my opinions, my feelings on Cole McDonald in the 7th round. But first, real quick, let me tell you about Renters Warehouse, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for because there are other options to selling your house when you move out. RentersWarehouse.com can help you build equity in that home you already own. Also create an extra cash flow for you and your family. If you own Airbnbs during this time where you rely on tourism and business travel, don't worry. Renters Warehouse can temporarily rent out your property for your Airbnb. RentersWarehouse.com. Cole McDonald. Every time you hear a quarterback who is drafted in the NFL asked about his elongated throwing motion, the quarterback will say, I've been working on it all offseason long, and it will get fixed. All of those times, it has never been fixed. Like, maybe they can still have success in the NFL, but they'll have success with that same throwing motion. Quarterbacks will not, and Cole McDonald, as hard as he tries, he's not going to change that throwing motion. He dips the ball down really low before he gets ready to throw, and it's long. It takes a lot of time, and he's going to have a fumble problem because it's down here, and that's right where hands go. It's easy for a D lineman or a blitzing DB or somebody to get their hand on that football. So Cole McDonald, as fun as he's going to be, and Luke Worsham from A to Z Sports Nashville.com nailed it. Cole McDonald will make the preseason games 3 and 4 very fun to watch. But he's not anything. Like, it's basically just a flyer on a guy to see what happens. And I think I would rather have them drafted a wide receiver or a positional player who can add value on the field like they did with Chris Jackson.
That's so off base. Do you understand why they drafted the quarterback? Do you understand why they did it?
I mean, in the 7th round, like,
do you understand why they drafted a quarterback?
Because they have Logan Woodside. That's why.
That's why, right? It made sense to draft a quarterback. They targeted a guy that they liked, probably had good conversations with him, watched his tape, and I watched a little bit more of his play after they drafted him. I like this pick. Don't love this pick, but here's it's hard to love a 7th round quarterback. Here's the best part, Austin. Cole McDonald is set up to win, not fail. Because who are we all going to compare him to? Who's probably the roster and the coaching staff going to compare him to?
Luke Falk.
Luke Falk, right? His ceiling is so low of what he has to supersede. It is great. Cole McDonald's a win-win position because he's going to come out there in a weird year, coronavirus year, if people stop eating bats, it would be normal. That's not happening. So he's going to go in there this offseason, and you know what? All he has to do is make the right reads, study, use his athleticism, and not be Luke Falk. Because Luke Falk was the worst quarterback I've ever seen in person. I've been covering this team for over 10 years. And I've seen a lot of quarterbacks go through that room, from Jake Locker back to Vince Young, back to Zach Mettenberger, Rusty Smith. I've seen them, a lot of them. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a lot of them. The ceiling right there, Luke Falk is about an inch from the floor. That's his ceiling. Cole McDonald can do whatever the hell he wants. This was a good pick because they needed to fill the roster slot. They valued the backup quarterback more than the backup wide receiver that you value so much in a draft where 14 guys were already off the board by the time they picked in the second round.
I wasn't talking about the second round draft picking a wide receiver. Geez, get it off your brain. Get it off your brain.
All of the other picks made sense. If you go through the list, John Robinson didn't do anything head scratching in this draft. Offensive tackle needed to help protect their new franchise quarterback for the next 4 years, possibly Ryan Tannehill. Cornerback, Logan Ryan is gone. Appalachian State, they didn't have a backup running back behind Derrick Henry because Deion Lewis is gone. The defensive lineman, the quarterback, they had to fill a hole. They needed depth at cornerback in the other 7th round pick.
They
didn't need a wide receiver. They needed what they got, and Cole McDonald was included in that. I like this pick.
I would be surprised if Cole McDonald makes the roster over Logan Woodside. Very surprised. I think Cole McDonald is heading to the practice squad.
I hope he becomes a starter because you hate him.
Oh, I mean, it would be so
I'm rooting so hard for Cole McDonald. I may go buy me a Big Mac today. That's how hard. That's how I'm rooting.
Go get yourself like a kebab on the grill if you want to.
That's how hard I'm rooting for Cole McDonald. I want him to thrive. I like the pick. It makes sense. Draft the quarterback.
No,
a backup quarterback.
He's not going to. I mean, I think
damn thing about Cole McDonald. You just didn't like them or want him to be drafted.
I know the same about Cole McDonald that you know.
Well, and you're sitting there hating on him.
Yes, because every time
I've heard priors, and your prior was you didn't want to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I know, because I think it's a waste of a pick, because if you're going to draft a quarterback in the 7th round, you're basically drafting Logan Woodside. And Logan Woodside has been in the Titans program for 2 years. And he's got a 2-year head start on whoever they drafted. A 7th round quarterback is a waste of a draft pick. And Brent, 0 for 3 on the comments today. Brent says Tom Brady was drafted in the 7th round. No, he was not. So I'm sorry. He was a 6th rounder, so you're kind of close. But still, like Cole McDonald, I'll credit Paul Kawarski for this. Name the last 7th round quarterback to throw a touchdown in the NFL.
I have no idea.
Trevor Siemian. And Trevor Siemian and before that was like another 10 years of a guy who you never heard of. Like 7th round quarterbacks don't do anything. And like Cole McDonald is fun, right? Cole McDonald had blonde dreads. He's a West Coast chill, dreaded out style of Ryan Tannehill.
The best position maybe of any draft pick ever. Really? Right? 7th round? No. And I'll tell you why. 7th round pick, and he's going to be backing up Ryan Tannehill. If Ryan Tannehill, who has a history of getting injured, he's torn his knee twice, had shoulder problems, has had a bevy of injuries, he will step in. They drafted him. If he makes the roster, right, that has to happen. I understand that. He's in a great spot to be the next Trevor Siemian to throw a touchdown as a 7th rounder. They obviously didn't I'm not saying they don't love Logan Woodside, but they don't draft over Logan Woodside in the 7th round if they love Logan Woodside.
Jeff says, so go get Trevor Siemian. He's not doing anything. I do think it's interesting that the 2 draft picks at quarterback that John Robinson has made are Luke Falk and Cole McDonald. Same offense.
7th rounder is going to be better than a 5th rounder.
Hold on.
Luke Falk was off.
Luke Falk was in the 6th round, just for correct purposes. But my point that I was bringing up is they're both from run and shoot offenses. That to me is interesting, because if I'm drafting a late round quarterback, that's a higher learning curve. Maybe I think John Robinson with his late round picks, 6th, 7th round guys, typically takes gambles on maybe some high upside guys, but that probably are a project.
He had 3 7th round picks. He was kind of playing with house money, right?
And he didn't. And one of my big surprises of this draft was that the Titans did not trade up once. I thought they had 3 7th rounders to use one to go get a guy. in the 4th, earlier 5th, or the 6th round that they liked, and they did not do that.
Because they traded for a future, right?
They did.
Valued. I thought that was a good trade with the Chiefs to trade out, get a future 6th round pick, higher value to build towards the future. And I think it goes to what we've kind of talked about earlier, Austin, is the draft. I'm not saying it didn't go the way the Titans wanted it to go, but it was probably much more of a difficult draft with everything involved, with the pick they had, right, where they had it, with everything of how the teams drafted ahead of them, and with the capital they had going into it, right? So I think that's how I sum up this draft. John Robinson did the best job he could with the picks that he had, and he probably didn't like his draft picks because they went to the AFC Championship game last year. That's what happens. Welcome to the Patriots life for the last 15 years.
I want to throw some mini shade. It's not Wednesday. I have shade. I have my shade ready for Wednesday, and it involves Titans fans. Just prep 48-hour tease on that.
Going after the audience.
But this is, I know, it's great, brilliant, right? Going after the audience. Not on all Titans fans, just a select member Titans fans. But Scott, here's mini shade on another select group of Titans fans. By Scott going out all caps comment, who is our kicker? When the Titans signed Greg Joseph in December of 2019, they signed him through a 3-year contract. Greg Joseph is under contract for 2 more seasons as the Titans kicker. Now they brought in Tucker McCann, shout out Williamson County from Missouri, and who will compete in camp. But Tucker McCann is going to push Greg Joseph, and Greg Joseph is the Titans kicker. So can we stop with the Titans need a kicker thing? Because they got one under contract for 2 years.
Well, I think a lot of Titans fans feel that way just because of the unknown and the circumstances of what happened last year, starting with Ryan Suckup and ending the year, really not needing a kicker during the games, right?
Yeah, but every time Greg Joseph didn't miss any of his extra points, and he hit the first points in the AFC title game.
That's not what gets you notoriety with the fans. What gets you notoriety with the fans is game-winning field goals or clutch field goals or long field goals in which he didn't kick any of those barely.
Well, yeah, but that's not his fault. I mean,
that's what I say. It's all circumstantial. It's not anybody's fault, but that's the reason why the majority of the fan base doesn't feel like the Titans had a kicker. I threw out the wild card of Rodrigo Blankenship, right?
Who was undrafted and went to the Colts.
That was just, and he may end up specking the Titans for years to come. Who knows?
It's true. I just think the Titans have a kicker under contract for multiple years. Like that just blew my mind every time somebody said that. A to Z Sports here live. So Zach, my worst pick of the draft was quarterback Cole McDonald from Hawaii in the 7th round. What was yours? Because you have not mentioned it yet.
Well, honestly, mine's I liked this draft. I said B, and that was more because of the players. There was not a singular draft pick that I didn't like because I understood all of them. If John Robinson, I could explain to you probably the philosophy behind John Robinson picking all of the players he selected. I think the one thing, if you want to put worst, and I've kind of touched on this, the ability of where they picked, as you said, not to improve. But I think it was just the draft. I think the draft screwed them. And sometimes that happens, right? There's nothing that you can do. We've all been in a fantasy football draft where we've wanted 2 guys and the SOB's right in front of you, take both of them, right? And you sit there and you're on the clock and you're just kind of scrambling. You have the guys that you kind of like. So I honestly didn't think there was a worst one, but I thought the draft as a whole was probably the worst part about the Titans draft. Do you see what I'm saying?
I know, I get you. And Zach, do you want to hand out the love of the day to Thaddeus, who says the worst pick in the Titans draft was Isaiah Wilson's girlfriend?
That is great. Look, Thaddeus, that you're going to get the love of the show. I do agree. Thaddeus Lewis, way to go, my man.
It's funny. Most of the comments that come in when Sirius discuss about the worst pick, and Chris stresses Chris Jackson, ... who? Tress says Chris Jackson was random. The Titans have solid special teams guys, and I don't get why. Chris Jackson is somebody that they targeted before Saturday began, And I think John Robinson really liked Chris Jackson because of his versatility, his ability to play. Really, if you talk about left corner, right corner, nickel corner, and a safety position,
That's
on
what you
top
want
of
a seventh rounder.
yeah, you want a guy who can do like a million different things. And Chris Jackson also said that he played every special teams unit at Marshall. So that's what you get in Chris Jackson, and he's fast. I believe he ran a sub 4.40 at the Marshall Virtual Pro Day. So Chris Jackson, I get it's a random like left field draft pick. And what do you expect? And out of the 243rd pick in the NFL draft, not much. But Chris Jackson could be somebody who at least can make a practice squad, and then in a pinch in week 9 when there's some injuries can come up and play some special teams reps to help the team out for sure.
Well, we hopefully all of our IG guys. Maybe we got to give like a 5-minute ticker on.
I know.
The IG.
Yeah,
this is a problem with Zuckerberg because Facebook owns Instagram. We only get an hour on IG Live. We got to get a ticker to shift everybody over.
Because there's no way you can get a ticker on us to be done in an hour. That's just not happening.
Not after the draft.
Yeah, for sure. A to Z Sports here live on a Monday, reacting to the Titans' 6 draft picks. I haven't had a lot of time to look at undrafted free agents, but I know several of you guys have brought up that they have a couple wide receivers there that you all like with Wilkerson and some others. I mentioned Tucker McCann, kicker, Williamson County product here in the mid-state. But let's do this. Let's get to our end of show topic and ask you guys something personal about your grocery store tendencies.
I'm really curious about this because everybody, let's just face it, has gone to the grocery store in the last couple of weeks. Everybody, you had to have. Maybe it was your wife, maybe it was you, somebody. You had to have gone into a store. You haven't been living under a rock, even though it's kind of been felt that way. But this is a really good question because I don't know if it truly, it kind of tells a lot about you.
All right, and I have no idea how Zach's going to answer this. So, the end of show topic: do you wear a mask or gloves at the grocery store, or both? But first, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the pulse of fitness. 1 15-minute workout at Mandu simulates 5+ hours in the weight room because of full body electronic muscle simulation. I miss Mandu. I want Mandu to open back up. And when it does, your first workout's going to be free. And we can all just jumpstart our path back to achieving our fitness goals. Mandu.com. Again, your first workout is free. It's a perfect time when they open back up. Hopefully, fingers crossed, sooner rather than later, when Mandu can get back in their studios, which is basically a one-on-one workout, full body workout that only lasts 15 minutes. Mandu.com. Your first workout's free.
A to Z Sports, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Look, we've got great podcasts, not just this live feed that we do every single weekday morning. Buck, his primetime show, also 615 Sessions, where Buck interviews and does some really good interviews here locally in Nashville. We've got the Tighten Up podcast with Jack Gentry and Austin Huff, which gives a funny spin. Both those guys are Titans fans, grew up in the Middle Tennessee area. That's a great, unique spin. They just had a brand new bonus episode yesterday that dropped. So the Tighten Up podcast there. You got the Big Orange podcast and the Nashcast right there for all of you Predators fans. So we're hoping sports gets back sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, we've got some really good podcasts here locally.
All right, A to Z Sports. We're getting a lot of comments, by the way. Oh, and the Big Orange podcast will have a lot of reaction to Jawan Jennings going to the Niners and Darrell Taylor going to the Seahawks and some others there. So, do you wear masks or gloves at the grocery store? Jeff Rubel says he works for Shipped, so he has to.
Well, in public, and this has happened just this week because I've been going to Publix. I've been out of my element, so I've been going to different grocery stores that maybe I wouldn't go.
That's weird.
But for Publix, 2 weeks ago, nobody was wearing masks or gloves, which I kind of was like, as workers, I mean, you're in the fire, right? You're in the pit. A lot of people are coming in and out. Yeah, the workers did not. Then Publix changed that this past week, requiring all of their employees to wear masks. And so I went there this weekend. Everybody's wearing masks. So that was.
Did you have a mask?
Well, I'm not going to tell you yet. I
Okay.
want to get to know some of the other people
All
and
right.
then you, and then I want you to guess. That's really just because you have no idea. It's
Yeah,
pretty fun.
that's true. So Scotty says just gloves. G-Man says neither. Steph says I wear a mask because here in Maryland it's required to wear a mask and it sucks. That's interesting. Johnny says no, but I should. Larry says no, I just carry hand sanitizer. Goon Squad TV on Periscope says yes. And in Delaware, it's now mandated that masks are mandatory in public.
Wow.
So Jeff says neither. I only wear if the stores demand it. So that's the interesting thing about this is we don't know where you guys necessarily live. You're not all in our area, so the other areas are more affected by the virus. And you see Albert says we're having our groceries delivered and depending on someone else to pick up our produce is now new exercise in trust. Greg says just a mask, no gloves. Danny says yes, I do because my wife won't let me go in without them. Scott says mask. Let's see. Louis says my grocery store is run and grab, both mask and gloves. Chad says hell no. Jason says he laughs at people with masks. Now I find that
Hell no.
interesting.
Hell no. I don't wear hell no. I don't wear that shit.
Tress says I lived in Mexico for a bit. My immune system is ironclad. Jeff Rubel says I'm here with Florida man. LOL. And Brian says he does neither. He's in West Texas, and I don't think West Texas, as the state of Texas, has been fairly okay.
Yeah, they've done a really good job.
Yeah, man. Shocker. Who would have picked Texas to be one of the best states to handle it?
Bigger and better.
Yeah, I don't know.
Virus ain't getting anywhere close to the Lone Star State.
They'd probably just get their shotguns or start shooting at the virus to see what happens. All right, so Zach, I think you do wear a mask. That's my prediction. I think, Zach, you mask up.
Do you think I wear gloves?
Yes, I think you do both.
I wear neither. I do not wear any of it. And it's not that I'm bigger or badder than the virus. I don't. I've been to the grocery numerous times. I go in there. The one thing I do is after I get groceries, look, I'm not rubbing up on people. I'm not trying to huff other people's air. I do my groceries, get my groceries. I walk back to my car and I put hand sanitizer on my hands. And then when I get home, I wash my hands, I unload my groceries, and I wash my hands again. That's my thing. But I don't wear masks, nor do I think like people are uncool wearing masks or anything. Yeah. I do find it weird. I feel like I'm living on another planet when I see this, I don't know, 45-year-old woman with a, one of those masks that have the two attachments, like an oxygen mask, like a filtration system.
Yeah, looks like Bane.
Yeah, it looks like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. So I don't wear them. I go in there and I do my job and I just don't do it. I don't know why.
So my process for groceries is I carry cleaning wipes in my pockets, and I probably have a cleaning wipe in my pocket whenever I go out, especially like when I know I have to get gas. I have one of those too, and I wipe down things. So a cleaning wipe is where I go with, and then obviously come home, wash my hands, unload the groceries, wash my hands, clean the produce, wash my hands again. But for the first time yesterday, I went to the grocery store and I went to Home Depot, back-to-back trips, and I wore a mask for the first time. But it wasn't just a mask because we didn't have a mask. I had to borrow a bandana from one of my dogs, Bella, and it said the Squirrelinator and had a squirrel on it because she goes after squirrels in the backyard. So I walked around with a hot pink bandana around my face that said the Squirrelinator for the first time, and I'm probably going to have to do that or find a different mask option.
Yeah, and like if I did wear a mask, I would wear my ski mask, in which it's the Joker's face, which I think I'd walk around. I mean, and everybody's doing weird stuff. Now, here's the one thing. I think, and I'm just kind of diagnosing myself as we talk through this, I believe the reason why I don't wear a mask is because I'm 32 years old and healthy, right? If I was 70, best believe I'd wear a mask and gloves and take much more precaution because I ain't trying to die because I go to the grocery store to go get some Honey Bunches of Oats. Like I'm not willing to sacrifice myself there, but I am putting my immune system on the line. Now, I've already said I have a conspiracy theory. I believe I had coronavirus in December because one of my buddies who I was hanging around got sick. He was in California that week. I got sick about almost 2 weeks later. Same thing. And then it was for 4 days. I was sweating, fever, awful, aches, all the things. And then I got over it.
And guess who never got touched by it? Your boy.
Right. And I don't, again, that's a conspiracy theory. I'm not like going around, freewheeling, not washing my hands because of it. But I think that this virus, again, that's why I say bad eaters all the time, because I do think that this virus has been in the United States a lot longer. I mean, just look at the numbers. I know we're testing more than any other country, but the numbers of people infected in the United States of America compared to every other place in the world. Now, I know China's lying their ass off about how many cases they actually have. I will say that on record because I truly believe that. But I think that this thing has been in the United States for months and months and months. I'm talking based back to like November, even possibly the fall. That's my personal opinion. I have no evidence. But
Scotty thinks he had it in January because the doctors didn't know what he had. And Chad says, I'm sure I had it in December too. Got it from partying in Nashville.
Yeah, and my friend went to California for a week for convention, and he was out around a lot of people. He was at a convention, came back, and he got sick. Dry cough, fever, all of the things that coronavirus, headache, all of that stuff. And a few days later, I got the same thing.
Well, and Titans for Life says masks more protect everyone else rather than the mask wearer. Yes, that's true. And remember, early on in this, early on in the coronavirus, pandemic, you were only supposed to wear a mask if you felt sick. You remember that? And so, then
that was to save masks,
right? No, and they were telling people that if you're not sick, don't wear a mask. And I'm out here seeing people all over the place with masks, and I'm dodging them and like I'm in dodgeball, get away from me.
I was in airports at the time, and people would not even airplanes. If you had a mask on, this was before the pandemic really took off. You want to talk about thinking somebody has the plague. You talk about you get a whole aisle to yourself early on. Or if you got screwed and didn't check in right away because I was flying Southwest, you were forced to sit next to the person with a mask. That there's nothing worse.
Craig says, "What's up from the UK?"
What's up, Craig? Hey,
yeah, Craig says, on YouTube, he says it's the same here. People think that they've had it as early as December. But we haven't really talked much about theories of the coronavirus other than Zach bringing up eating bats where we all have to drink once a show or twice. Let's see. Ethan Ramsey says Zach is Tennessee's patient zero. So look, I haven't gotten sick outside of seasonal allergies. Seasonal allergies are the one thing I can't avoid. But I have not gotten sick, whether it's been a cold, a flu, a whatever, and maybe, I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't think it's been since college. In college, I had the plague crud, because I lived I think this is where my immune system came from. I lived in a fraternity house for 2 years, and there was mold in the bathroom, and I had crap in my lungs and throat, and I haven't been sick since. I got it out, and that lasted a long time, but I'm okay, and I haven't really gotten sick outside of seasonal allergies, which I've had my entire life. So maybe the 2 years there helped me out for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and that could have been the case. And it's weird. Again, I'm not afraid of the coronavirus, but I really don't want to get it if I haven't had it, right? Because, and I'll go ahead and say this just because we're on the topic. I will be honest, I've never gotten an STD in my life, but I feel no. This is serious. Never had it. But I know friends and buddies in college who had it or got texted it, right?
Yeah.
And they have to tell a bunch of people. And that is shaming, right? That's shaming. If you get the coronavirus, you have a responsibility to tell the people that you've been around, right? And it's kind of like the same thing. And God, I have never gotten an STD. I have never gotten coronavirus. Maybe I have.
Well, you think you did in January.
Maybe, but that's not proven, right?
I think. Yeah.
But that's the shame of it. And that's, I think, the hard part is the aftermath of you get the Rona, you got to tell everybody you've been around that you've gotten the Rona, because they've got to be, and that scares the hell out of them, because then they got to tell, well, I've been around somebody with the Rona. I've got to tell all the people that I've been around. They've got to tell all that they've been around. And you are the worst person ever. That's, I think, the worst. It's the socialism of what the Rona brings to you and the people that you're close to.
Vasco just popped in. He's like, what am I watching? I imagine you thinking about talking about the Titans, and I'm walking and you're talking about this.
Well, that was the only way that I could address it, right? I couldn't sit there and start talking about STDs, and everybody assumes that I had one. I've never had one.
I mean, you're not wrong when you're talking about like the need I got sick. I have to go inform the people around me that I've come in contact. Yes. Oh, and that's why Greg says that he's not necessarily worried about getting it, but he's terrified about giving it to other people, which is why he wears a mask. So, and I did think it was funny. I saw a comment from somebody that says they think it's funny when people wear a mask driving in their car by themselves.
So this will be the first time, John, and this is more to come. All right, the first time, and we'll do this. This is a new feature on the show. The first time, and Isaiah, I know I gave him the love early on in the show, but John gets the new love. And this is breaking news. Breaking news. John Spainhauer, Zach comes clean on his STD history. And he is a featured tweet on our show.
John,
right there.
The first comment to be live on screen. Congrats to John.
Way to go, John. John, you're going to get a love for that, and you're going to be featured right there on our screen. This is A to Z history. This is big time. So way to go, John.
All right, guys. Heck of a show. Hour and 15 minutes in the books talking Titans. We have so many more Titans draft discussions to get into. Man, I mean, there's so many interesting comments about Zach's last discussion.
But this is the best part about, and it should be the best part about this show. As you know, I don't care. I love talking about things that maybe are uncomfortable to people. But this is something that everybody is affected by, and everybody goes to the grocery store. I hope, we talk about having to tell other people if you have it. I personally don't know anybody who's had it. Do you?
Yeah, because Brian asked that question. Does anyone know anybody who's had COVID? Let's see. I'm trying to remember specifically. Yeah, my wife has a friend who is a nurse who got it. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't necessarily remember. I mean, I've seen some people on Facebook who said that they have
different areas, like Monsoon's from New England. He says New England's wrecked.
Yeah. Right. For sure. I mean, Todd McShay, no draft for Todd McShay because he was recovering from it, which was sad. And I'm a big Todd McShay guy. I like Todd.
And so I think about the regionalization of it is, if you live in New York or the Northeast or in California where it's more prevalent, it's not that surprising to know somebody, right? It's not as much of a scarlet letter on you. But if you live in Tennessee, which really hasn't been impacted as much based on the population percentage, then when you hear somebody who you knew has gotten it, it's kind of like, oh, whoa, I don't want to go around you, right? Even though if it's been weeks after they've survived it, it's just like it's just a virus, right? It's like this weird creature.
Yeah, it's strange. We're asking, do you know people who've had the coronavirus? And Dwayne says Sean Payton, like he's the golfing buddies with Sean Payton.
My buddy Sean down in NOLA.
I stay at Sean's house every Mardi Gras.
All right, guys, we've had a great show. Thank you for everybody for joining. We're going to have a fun week. Still reacting on the draft, get a little bit more in depth with the players. Also talk about other teams' draft, how it affects the Titans, the AFC South. The Last Dance was last night, which is awesome. I'm sure and pray that more sports stories come out in the coming weeks and coming days so we can discuss this with you guys. Again, we got a brand new feature showcasing you guys' tweets and comments on Periscope, on Facebook, on YouTube. So that's a feature that we'll start using. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. And primetime tonight with Buck Rising. That rolls on.
And Matt, the last comment I'll read for today, and Jacob, I'm thinking about your friends who who lost someone to the coronavirus. But Matt says, Is today Clowny Day? Is today Clowny Day?
I don't think
Because-
today is Clowny Day.
We'll see what happens, because as of 3 p.m. Central Time today, the Titans get their compensatory picks locked in for next year. And then will it be Clowny Day tomorrow? Will it be Clowny
Maybe.
Day? Will it be
Maybe.
Clowny Week? We'll find out for sure.
Hey, do you want to paint your face for the folks at home if Clowny signs with the Titans?
No, I do not. Why would I do that?
Well, you're a big paint face guy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I'm a huge paint my face guy. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Go back and watch those shows. Those are fun.
I know they're ridiculous. Maybe I just paint my face like a clown. Here's another thing. I tweeted out from A to Z the Titans full draft class, and then I put the clown emoji at the very bottom after a space. So many people thought I said that the draft class was full of clowns. Like, it's just, so many people like, why are you so negative? Why, this is a good class. Why don't you like the class? I'm like, come on, guys. It's about clowning.
That's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll say put comment with the clown emoji if you want Clowny. We'll see
how many clowns we can get. I hope nobody's scared of clowns. Okay, guys, have a great Monday. Buck will be back live tonight, A to Z Sports Prime Time at 8 Central Time. We'll see you later.
Adios.